All right. Welcome, everybody, to episode 11 of the MTG Rebelcast. We are here today with Perudabo, John Ramos MTG, myself, Max Damage All Nines, and Optimal MTG, who is new to the podcast. Welcome, Optimal MTG. How are you today?
Hey, I'm all right. Just here on a lovely Monday holiday here up in Canada. Good old Canada Day for us.
Oh yeah, that's right. We do share. I think I saw that on an episode of Letterkenny recently. Actually, we do share kind of a holiday weekend there.
Yeah, it's what, Independence Day? Is it Independence Day for
Yeah,
you?
yeah, July
Yeah,
4th, which is tomorrow.
yeah.
So welcome. I wanted to ask you a couple of questions in particular in a second, but first, I have to say this is episode 11. Very last mention of the fact that there was ever a lost episode. We're just gonna keep that hush hush. This is number 11 numerically. The Dark Stream, Darth Rictus of the Dark Stream, is supposed to join us shortly. Hopefully he does. I know he has quite a few things to say about the two topics we're talking about today. And so, just in summary, our two topics for the day, we're going to be discussing the impact of the most recent set, Lord of the Rings, and what kind of impact it had on the formats Alchemy and Historic that it is legal in. A lot of us play Arena or digital Magic in addition to paper Magic, so we have a little bit of a perspective on the impact of it to those formats and how it went there. Having already talked about the actual set release, having talked about how we felt about it in paper, which is, I think, for the most part, when I can speak for everybody in saying that we were feeling pretty good about it as a product and its representation of Lord of the Rings mythology and lore. I think it did a good job. But we're going to talk today about the impact of it on the card game itself, and then we're going to turn to the announcement that there are two anthologies releasing. One for Explorer, introducing 25 new cards, and another for Historic, introducing 25 new cards. So we're going to talk about what our wish list is for those, what we expect, how those can bring, I want to say, the corollary formats in Arena, right? Explorer is supposed to be like Pioneer, and in some ways, people have compared Historic to Modern in some ways. I don't know if that's a fair comparison or not. But
It's fair.
yeah, I think so.
It's fair. Just a little bit less, but it's fair.
Yeah. But we'll get to that in a moment. First, let's turn our attention to sort of the newest member of the podcast here today, our guest, Optimal MTG. How are you? I want to ask right off the rip, what's your MTG story? I like to call it the MTG story. That is to say, how long have you been playing? Have you competed? And what's your focus in MTG?
I first got acquainted with Magic casually back in 2001, so I've been around for a while.
Wow.
But like I was on and off for multiple years until about summer of my first year of university. So that was about 2009 or so when I finally got into playing F&M in
Mhm.
store. Uh, just because at that time I kind of wanted to get out of Magic permanently, like just get rid of all the cards that I had lying around. But then a guy I knew who I used to go to high school with said to me to come back to Montreal for the summer and then go to the LGS there. And I played F&M. I got hooked because I'm naturally competitive because I did a lot of sports growing up. So it's kind of my mentality with games. So then I started playing GPs and PTQs in the summer of 2012, and I haven't looked back. So I've been grinding for a good 11 or so years at this point.
Very cool, very cool. That's what was your first set? I think I've asked you this before, but I can't remember.
So so my first set when playing F&M was N10.
Okay.
So I actually started F&M a month before. So it was pretty much like 2 months after Alara Reborn hit. So this was still very standard. So
Wow.
I got the good experience in standard.
Very
Apparently.
cool, very cool. I know you said you started picking up Magic in like 2001. That's about when I started to pick up some Magic cards, and I started to go to FNMs early on. But my first standard, oh my god, was Mirrodin. So on the opposite end of the spectrum, there, you got a very nice standard experience, I think.
Well, I mean, yeah, they're pretty. I mean, they're kind of close. Somewhat, right? Mirrodin. With was this Affinity at its peak before all the bannings,
Right
or
before the bannings, yeah.
yeah, no,
What a
I
wonderful time.
Yeah.
yeah, I got the tail end of fairies, but then right after rotation, obviously it was Jund Central for another year or
Oh
so.
my god, yeah.
Yeah, and then Cloudblade, and then everything else. So, but yeah, no, I mean, uh, yeah, I've been grinding competitive Magic since 2012. I've made a lot of friends. I don't know if you know much about the Canadian Magic community, but back then we used to have a thing called Mana Deprived.
Okay.
So that was kind of like the main like Canadian competitive scene for
Okay.
any notables. So they kind of like once people got to know me, they kind of like pushed me really into that. So and then yeah, I've just been around, traveled a lot to different cities for events and such.
Okay. So have you gotten to experience the community both in the United States and in Canada, or just primarily in Canada?
Oh no, I've traveled a lot throughout the U.S.
Okay.
As well. I only recently started traveling more west since coming back from COVID.
Mhm.
But I think the farthest west that I had been in the U.S. for traveling was like Denver before COVID.
All right. Well, welcome to the crew. So let's go ahead and dive in. I know John Ramos has some hot opinions, but
Oh,
so
geez, here we go.
let's hold off on that for a second. I want to get because I got to hear some of that before the recording, and I want to get a couple of other opinions out there first, because I think whether you agree with him or not, I think John Ramos makes a couple of points that at least deserve to be heard, and in my opinion are a little valid. So let's talk to Peridabo. Peridabo, welcome back to the cast. How are you doing today, dude? Haven't gotten really to talk to you yet.
I'm doing pretty good, man. It's a little bit hot outside, but
A little
other than
bit.
that, all things are well.
I
You know,
imagine.
just
I
what's
imagine
that?
it's I imagine it's hotter where you are than where I am. And if it's anywhere close to where I am, it's
I mean,
a
it's not
scorcher.
far off from you, but yeah, it was a little bit miserable, but we
Oh
did the
man,
thing.
there's like a
We
whole
came and
there's a whole heat dome over the south, I swear. But anyway,
it was brutal.
yeah.
It was an absolutely brutal day. But other than that, well, I just went and laid on a cold tile floor for a while to deheat.
Oh
I
my
was like,
gosh.
"There's air conditioning and tile." I'm like, "That's where I'm at. That's me."
So
But yeah,
let me get your opinion real quick. What how are you feeling about Lord of the Rings? I know you told me the other day you just kind of barely touched on it recently and got to play it a little bit. I know we got to play some of it in the showdown. But how are you feeling about the set overall? And then how are you feeling about how it's playing on ladder? I don't know if you play in historic, but let me know how you feel about that.
actually, I haven't played much historic ranked. I've recently hopped into Explorer, just trying to get out of standard and broaden my horizons a bit. But I'm just stoked to see the enthusiasm that a lot of people are showing for actually playing historic again. You know, I mean, everyone seems really amped up about getting into it, so I'm happy to see that for anything. And then I've done a bunch of drafts for it, and that's actually been really fun. So I think it's been a good time, man.
I think
I mean,
the
it's making mono black viable, so that makes me. All you gotta do is add the run one ring, and all of a sudden you've got a deck. It's great.
hell yeah, I love the draft environment for this set. I have to say it's probably the most fun I've had in a while in limited. Even if I'm not winning, I think there's a lot of good stuff out there you can build with.
Yeah, the draft has been fun.
Well, good. So, you're consistent with my opinion on it. It's generally positive regarding the set and the way it released and everything like that.
Oh,
Optimal
absolutely.
Optimal MTG, I want to turn to you and ask just how do you feel about the Lord of the Rings set? and how has it impacted your competitive play?
So I got to luckily do the early access, so I did a bunch of limited on Arena for Lord of the Rings. It seemed interesting, amass, tempting, and whatnot. In terms of competitive Magic, I actually have not gone to play with any LOTR cards yet, just because I'm primarily still just been playing Pioneer. But next weekend I'll be doing a team trios, where I'll be the modern seats. So I'm gonna have a lot of the One Ring fun on both sides of the table. I don't know how I feel about it yet, but it's kind of wild, right? But it's been a long while since we've had like one card completely like disrupt and force an entire metagame to just be play this one card and that's it, right?
Right.
So, and we got the Pro Tour coming up in what, 2 weeks or a few weeks as well, which is another. So I can only imagine what's going to happen there. And then we have a ban update next month, early August. So who knows what happens if the One Ring gets banned or something else, right?
I am pretty sure that they have said that they're not doing anything with the Lord of the Rings cards. Like, I'm pretty sure they said that.
I'll have to get a source on that if you know it. I'd really like to know.
I don't. It's not an article. It's from one of the devs. I just don't remember if it's just paper or if it was digital. But like, I saw it somewhere. I just don't remember where. That somebody from WotC had already said like nothing's happening with these cards. So basically, like, get used to it is essentially how I took it.
And that's consistent with the past ban philosophy, where even when a card's problematic, if John Ramos is right, they'll wait super late into release cycle to ban it. But go ahead, Optimal. I know you had something else you wanted to say.
Well, I was also going to say that I think recently when they made their whole restructure update, right, of how they're going to approach BNR updates moving forward, they did say that they're going to try doing different things as opposed to what they used to do, which is wait and see. Because now they want to do the whole within a couple of weeks, kind of scale things back if things get too out of control. So I believe, from my understanding, that should be the 4 times a year plus the 1, right? So I wouldn't be surprised if in this current window that they do something with the One Ring if it gets too much.
Yeah. As somebody who has kind of played both formats, Alchemy and Historic, recently, yeah, I can confirm. I don't know if this is considered meta warping. We'll have to look at what the definition of that is, because that's part of the ban philosophy as well, that terminology. But it's been compared to a Reckoner Bankbuster, that every deck it's an auto include, 1 or 2 copies. Never 4, but 1 or 2 copies. 4 in that Grixis deck that everybody's playing right now. By the way, if you want to play Fable, Invoke, all the broken cards, just go play all that in Alchemy right now, because you can.
So sad, man. This is so sad.
John Ramos, MTG. All right, let's hear it from you. What are your thoughts?
You must be new. You must be new here, because I'm about to hurt somebody's feelings. But
oh Lord,
so it's all good. No, it's all good. So, first, I just want to preface this by saying that this set is a banger. This the whole thing. The art is awesome. The lore, the storytelling on the cards, everything about this set is amazing. It's one of the best sets that is Universes Beyond, and anybody that talks negatively about Universes Beyond, this set proves that you need to stop, because Lord of the Rings, everything about this set is just great. I just wanted to get that out of the way, because that's how it is.
Fair enough.
Now, the impact on Alchemy and Historic, I think the impact has been more in Alchemy than Historic has, because Historic has already had the two or three decks that are already good. It created an archetype or two but the majority of Historic hasn't really changed that much. Alchemy, on the other hand, you've basically just injected standard cards and more modern power level cards into just basically standard in the colors that were already good. And their curves are getting lower because Bowmasters are just busted. So I'm sorry. Bowmasters are very good. Historic specifically, nobody saw the One Ring coming. People knew the Bowmasters were good. People knew that there were other cards that were good. People knew that Samwise was good. My problem with Historic is not so much the cards that they're injecting. It's just I don't really care about the impact because new cards, new archetypes, new things to be doing, that's fine. What I don't like is giving everybody a way to do the same thing. That's not what the format needs. The format needs diversity. And right now, that's not what we have. And if this is the vision, and this is what they're talking about, in that cards that would not see play due to the modern cards, well, then they need to relook at and rethink what their philosophy on the formats are. Because right now, what they said they were going to do with it and what they're doing are not really matching. So specifically on the impact of the set, it's more of an impact on Alchemy than Historic. Historic has seen their stuff, and the decks that were already good just got better.
What are some of the cards that you think are creating this? Like, are we talking about just the One Ring? Are we talking about Bowmaster?
Yeah. So Bowmaster, basically what Bowmaster does is it invalidates a lot of things that were already like teetering off due to how good some certain decks were. And basically there are almost colors invalidated based on what Bowmaster does. So like, for example, Phoenix wasn't already played, but it's virtually impossible to play now because of Bowmasters. It's almost impossible to play with like Esper Sentinel and stuff that are X1s because Bowmasters just pings everything. So like you can't play DRC, Dragon Rage Channeler because of the nerf. So like even if it's a 3-1, the nerf basically because it doesn't become a 3-3 in Historic, it becomes a 3-1. So like it never dodges Bowmaster, and they play a bunch of draw spells. Basically, you can't play draw spells in this format anymore because of Bowmasters. And basically, you're playing this game where when do I play Crucius? When do I play One Ring? When do I do all this stuff? Because you have to always be on the lookout for just them Bowmastering you. And, you know, you just drew 3 cards and they just did 3 damage to you and attack for 5. So, like, there really isn't an aggro deck right now because the one thing that the One Ring does that really nobody really realized, and why I said the card is just basically taking over everything, is because there's a little clause when you cast it and hits play. It gives you protection from everything. So essentially what you've done is you've given yourself a free time walk. It's not a time walk, it's the effect, not the card, just the effect of
I think Darkstream would say, yeah, that's a time walk.
Yeah, so you're not doing anything. You can't take damage. You can't do it. And like you get to draw 3 cards before anything is dealt to you. So a 4-mana sorcery that basically says, you know, counter everything. You can't be impervious. Yeah, you basically just played. You can't be thought seized. You can't be dealt damage. Nothing. Oh, by the way, I drew 3 cards at the expense of 4 mana and 2 damage. It doesn't matter when you just keep casting One Ring and just giving yourself protection. Like, it doesn't matter.
Okay. Did Peridabo, Optimal, did y'all want to reply anything that John Ramos said?
No, I'm good. Like I said, I'm just happy to see people wanting to play more than they were of other formats, you know?
That is a silver lining to this, is that at the very least, the new cards are exciting enough that it's brought attention back to the format.
I will say that if there was anything, the format went from casual to competitive really quick. Like, it's not a free roll anymore. So
yeah,
if that's what the cards do, I'm all for it. Like, don't make no mistake. Like, I'm glad that this is what it does. It's just there's things that I don't like about Historic that I think could be changed, or not changed, but like just a different direction, so to speak. But they have to, and we'll get to that in the next like segment or whatever. But like this set is good for Magic. I don't care what anybody says, and don't take anything away from it, even if the formats are not as good in the good place that they're in right now. Just allow the environment to make the natural changes as it comes. The set is great, even if some of the cards are a little bit overtuned than they should be, but that's fine. It's not like Modern Horizons 1 or 2, which is what they said they were trying to do with the set, is not make all the cards like they were when they put in MH1 and 2, because all those cards are ridiculous. Every one of them.
Yeah.
This set only has about like 5 to 10 that are actually like really constructed playable, so whatever.
Did you have anything you wanted to say, Optimal?
Oh, too much. I do agree on the whole One Ring issue of the whole when it comes into play. If you casted it right, then you get protection, and then the whole ways to manipulate it, right? But bouncing it and then next turn replaying it. If you look at Modern right now, some decks are playing. Do you remember the land Minamo?
Yeah, I saw that the people are bouncing it and replaying it.
Replaying it, but then they're also Minamo, they're untapping the ring and retapping it. So they draw 3 cards and then bounce it back in hand with the fairy, and then on the next turn replay it again instead of like. So I get the pain, I get the frustration. Then they had to print what's his name? Delighted Farmling?
Delighted Halfling.
Yeah, I keep getting that name all mixed up. Like, it's either I think it's Delightful Halfling or Delighted Farmling. But the fact that like you can play it on turn 1, if it's not answered, you get to go like Uncounterable Legend on turn 2, Uncounterable Legend on turn 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've done that a couple times in Historic where like people are having counter magic up and you just use Delighted Halfling, and it's just like, what counter magic?
Yeah. So it's like, I don't know. There are definitely some design spots that they could have tinkered with a little bit, but the One Ring has a lot on it. It's a lot of text.
Yeah, quite a bit. Quite a bit of meaningful text, really, is the key. But yeah,
it's the best 4 draw spell ever printed, bar none. It's not even close.
Yeah.
Like it's better than Jace.
But Jace was supposed to be better than all.
No, well, now it's relegated. Now it's relegated to it. Don't be surprised if that thing comes to Historic now.
Oh my God! Speaking of Historic, we had the recent announcement that we're getting 2 new anthologies. All right. I'm excited. I don't know. In particular, the Explorer Anthology. I was excited when they announced Explorer Anthologies at all. But yeah, we're getting another one, and we've only seen like 3 cards. By the way, congratulations to Optimal MTG on getting a preview.
Oh, thank you.
Can't wait to see it.
All those are previews. Darkstream too.
Yeah, Darkstream. If he gets in here, but I don't think he's gonna make it today. But look. I'm excited. I'm very excited about the prospect of Explorer getting closer to Pioneer. So my big question for y'all is, what are your wishes for these 2 anthologies, Historic and Explorer? And how can that happen? How can Historic get closer to Modern? How can Explorer get closer to Pioneer? Let's start with John Ramos. What are your thoughts?
All right, so this is where I said I wanted to push everything to this spot, because instead of saying what I really, really want in the wish list for specifically Historic anthologies, I'm actually going to go with addition by subtraction, which is I need to know what Wizards is trying to do with this format, because the anthologies don't matter if you're saying that you're just going to print cards like the One Ring, and which is not bad, like that's fine. But if you're going to say that, then you need to let us know where you're taking it, give some transparency, and then can you tailor and tinker with the format where we can start seeing some unnerfs and unbanned stuff? Because there's certain things that just make no sense. Like, for example, why is Fires and 4-color Omnath, Locus of Creation, 5 mana? Like, what are we doing here? Why is Teferi still 4 mana? why have we not unbanned some stuff that like make no sense being on the ban list, like Winota and some other stuff. Unnerfs, you can nerf some of the stuff in the ban list. You've already done this already with Uro, Oko, and many others. You can make Field of the Dead legendary. Cards that I want for specifically from Historic are going to be cards that are just like that don't see play now in the modern era because they're just not good enough, but they could be good enough in Historic. Cards like Flagstones of Trokar and Spill River Helix, Veteran Explorer, like stuff like that, where they're not too good, but they've seen play before, and it's not like you're trying to put stuff. You don't want it to be modern. I understand. And if that's your direction, then I need to understand why you put some modern cards in. Like, why'd you put Esper Sentinel in the format if you're not going to make it modern? Because those are modern power level cards. So I need to know like where you're taking it.
Well, all right. Any thoughts, Optimal, Paradabo, but Optimal in particular, I want to ask you if you have anything to say on top of what John Ramos said, and then what your thoughts are on sort of the anthologies and where they're going.
Okay. So Arena, it's definitely quite the platform to play Magic on.
Yeah, to be clear with our audience, Optimal MTG does play MTGO in addition to Arena and Paper Magic. So go ahead.
Yeah, I play both. I definitely play Magic Online more than I do Arena, but that's mostly due to the whole priority settings that don't exist on Arena. Like, I do wish that Arena had the same as Magic Online, where I can set my own stops and not have to give away free information to my opponent all the time. But
yeah,
that's a different thing, so we won't get too deep into that. More or less, though, in terms of how Arena is, I love Historic before Alchemy Nation attacked. I'm sure there. I mean, like, I have no idea, but I'm sure there was someone probably said somewhere in the background that, oh, look at this cool thing called Hearthstone. You know, we should compete with them, even though we really don't need to. You know, and just create extra RNG on top of the RNG that already exists in Magic. And I think that's pretty much been the downfall of Historic as a whole. This is definitely something that I know others are also in agreement over. Or at least what they should have done is they should have given two sides of Historic, right? Historic without Alchemy involved and Historic with Alchemy involved, right? Let people have what they want to do. Once they smashed them all together like a pie, it threw everything out the window, and the popularity's been down ever since, right? Then you've got the whole changing things because it's digital only, and so forth, right? So and when you start, I think it's one thing when you're like adjusting the cards that don't exist because they're only in digital, but then it gets really confusing when you start adjusting the cards that actually exist in paper, and then you have people going from online to paper Magic, and they have to read the card a million times because they don't know which version is correct.
Ooh, yeah. You bring up some very good. This is why I love having different content creators come on and give their viewpoint, because my God, like, all of us Arena heads need to hear the flaws here. Some of us, especially who don't play MTGO, who, you know, I was bringing up in a different podcast, just the whole economy, but the economic difference between Arena and MTGO, and the fact that you get to keep your cards and you get to rent decks, and there's all these different options that just don't exist. But thank you for bringing that to the discussion, because I think we do need to just remember that these are sort of the market reasons why Arena is the way it is. And we should temper our expectations when it comes to these anthologies. We were discussing off camera or off record, you know, our expectations regarding those, and why I was bringing up why the hell Pioneer doesn't just Explorer doesn't just instantly become Pioneer. Well, it's because right they want to sell these packs to us over time and stretch it out. Paradabo, do you have any thoughts on the matter? What are your thoughts towards Explorer and Historic Anthologies? And aside from Mono Black getting stronger, is there anything you'd like to see from either of those?
Honestly, I'm always just happy whenever they put more stuff on here. They could thing on here and let us sort it all out later, and I'd be completely content with that. I want to play with as many options, as many variables of those options as I possibly can, and just expand my own horizons. The thing I'm most excited about from all the previews is seeing Deathrite Shaman. I mean, I just started playing a couple years ago, maybe 2 now. So the card's new to me. I mean, I see there's already decks been built with it. I'm sure it's been busted for a while, but I see it and I already see this little glimmer of shenanigans in my eye, like something in my head's like, oh
Love
yes, this will be fun, like I see it and then I think Tyvar, then I'm thinking like the advantage and yeah, I just want to build stuffs. I want to play with the things. Give me my items.
And I have it
I
up
just
on the.
want to know.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I just want to know who's playing with Cyclonic Rift.
Yeah.
That's specifically for Historic Brawl.
Okay.
Really?
You know,
Okay.
I'm sorry that DR. Like, listen, I know how powerful Deathrite Shaman is, but look at the difference between Pioneer right now and Modern. Obviously you don't see it in Modern because it's banned, but
Yeah.
it sees literally no play in Pioneer, and it's because you don't have fetch lands in the format. That's why you don't see it played, because it's obnoxiously terrible in this format, in Pioneer specifically.
Yeah, I think that was one of the design points before Pioneer was constructed, right? Was like, we're going to limit fetch lands. That was like one of the big points, wasn't it?
Yeah, so the reason why they banned fetches was because they wanted a format that was not Modern. All right.
What do you think about Urborg?
I have it on my list as they should bring it.
Oh, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
I have a provoking question here. So we were talking about Deathrite Shaman, and we were talking about fetch lands not really existing in Pioneer. So we have Fable Passage, right?
Yep.
Okay, so normally with the nature of the equal fetch lands, where it's like pay 1 sack, and then you can grab a land type, right?
Yep.
But because obviously the nature of Pioneer, we have the Triumph, so that's a no-go for the most part. What do you think about if they were to ever reprint Prismatic Vista?
I've been clamoring for Prismatic Vista to be in Historic since basically Historic Anthologies too. I'm surprised that I think that's a lot. I think it should be allowed in Standard, because
Whoa.
the format,
basic, right? So that's not bad. That's fine.
It's not. It doesn't forward. So it doesn't forward a 5-color mana base.
Yep.
Insofar as you can't grab a Triumph, whether you can't grab a Shock. So it's just a basic. They're not. It's not the same thing as a duel. So once you decide what it is, and that's what it is, you can't go back. So like, yeah, it's every mana source, but it's only one of those mana sources, not all of them.
Yeah,
so,
that's significantly different tactically.
Like, don't get it twisted. Like, every time that we go to Ravnica and we want 5-color mana bases, it happens, and we're happy about it. We don't like it all the time, but when it happens, we're cool with it. Because it's like, we only get to do this like once every 18 months or whatever. And that doesn't really bother me because they're just tap lands. What I don't like is when you put these mechanics in of 5-color mana bases and you give efficient removal, and then you say aggro, good luck, because all your 1-drops are terrible. So like, that's what I don't like. You got to be able to balance the format of giving 1-drops and stop printing these really, really efficient removal where it's basically incentivizing you to do that.
Yeah, so my other question here too then is, if Fabled Passage and Prismatic Vista existed together in Pioneer, how good at that point would Deathrite Shaman be?
Medium, because Fable Passage is not the same thing. I honestly wouldn't even play Fable Passage because Prismatic Vista already does that, and you already have Mana Confluence in the format. But also, what deck wants Shaman? That's the other thing too. Is like, if we had all this stuff, what deck wants it?
You
Is
definitely
Shaman an elf?
build from scratch, definitely.
But that's just it. Is like none of the existing deck lists are even remotely close to even wanting Deathrite Shaman.
Is
So
Deathrite
like you'd
Shaman
have
an
to,
elf?
huh?
Is Deathrite Shaman an elf?
No, I think it's a shaman.
Is
Are
it
you
an
sure?
elf shaman?
You're gonna make me to look this up.
I'm pretty sure it is.
Deathrite Shaman is an elf shaman.
Okay. So,
Ah,
so let me tell you about a deck that I stumbled upon.
that
a
is
while
just.
ago.
Yep, here we
It
go.
was used
Here
in
we go.
Pioneer. I mean, it's still got room to grow, obviously, but it's a deck that will grow in time. So there's this lovely little deck, 4-color with Nissa, Omnath, and Risen Reef and such, right?
Ooh,
It's
I
all
love
like-
it. I love it.
Actually, it was a deck that just top aided.
Yeah. So
Challenge.
it's still growing. It's still like with more cards that will come into Magic over time.
I agree.
The deck will eventually get better. Deathrite Shaman, I believe, slots right into that deck because
sure.
Mist can grab it if you need it, and it's a 1-drop alongside your Chain to the Rock.
Hey, Dark Thrictus of the Dark
Yeah.
Stream. Welcome to the discussion. So,
Shh. Everybody, we gotta stop talking about him now.
That's cool. That's cool.
oh man, I love it. We're right now. The topic of discussion is Deathrite Shaman. We're in the section where we're talking about our expectations for the anthology releases coming up, and what possible impact they could have, what direction they could go in. I don't think anybody's actually listed any wish list cards yet, but we have talked heavily about the implications of what they might or might not release. Deathrite Shaman. Does any deck want this card?
No.
I want the card, so
Paradabo wants it.
Fair. I don't know that I've seen a competitive archetype that can really abuse it without modern day fetches rolling around in it. You know, like if without those, it's not a good Lawnmower Elf. Now it's just a bad Scavenging Ooze.
Optimal was just discussing the possibility of using it in sort of the 4-color Omnath Nissa Shaman elemental build. Optimal, did you want to add anything to that discussion?
Oh, I think it fits in a deck if we were to ever get Prismatic Vista into Pioneer. Like right now, with the meta base as is, Fable Passage and the Streets and New Capenna bad fetches, I would not play it in there. But I think if we were to have another plain fetch that doesn't break the format, aka Prismatic Vista, which only grabs basic lands, I think that would have more viability to allow it to exist in a deck at least.
Okay, so fair to say that's a wish list.
Yeah. Prismatic Vista, wish list, let's go.
Yeah. I think Optimal makes a good point. The difference is if you can't play it turn 1 off of fetch, then you don't get the Lawnmower Elf effect. So now you're playing a turn 2 ramp effect essentially, and that's the difference a turn makes in Magic is quite a bit. So I don't think you want to play your 1-drop on turn 2 or play it on turn 1 and then you have to fetch on turn 2 and now you're just doing parity to have 2 mana while fetching as opposed to ramping up to 3. It's just not as effective.
Okay, that makes sense. That really does. Let me turn to you and ask, what are your expectations for these anthologies coming up, and are there any cards that you predict will come out this time in this set?
I mean, slightly a rock and a hard place because I was just gifted a historic preview card tonight.
Congratulations, by the way.
So, like, I know what's coming, sort of. So I can't really comment on that side of it. But for the Explorer side, since I have no knowledge, I'll comment more towards that. I would love to see any number of cards from Pioneer make the transition over. I'm not as big a fan of the Dig Through Time Treasure Cruise scenario, but I would just love to see most of what's in Pioneer that's missing. I think there's like somewhere between 30 and 70 cards. I can't remember. We made a list at one point, and I'd like to just see a lot of those and not as many cards that you know what I mean? Like we have so many scenarios where we get these cards in these anthologies, and you're like, this is for Historic Brawl, even though it's technically an Explorer anthology. Like it's just not tier 1. It's not playable, but you have to spend all this money and you don't get what you're looking for on half the cards. I would like to see every card be relevant.
How many cards is Lotus Field missing?
You're missing at least 3. You're missing Hidden Strings, you're missing Sylvan Scrying, and you're missing
Stage.
No, Sylvan Scrying.
Yeah, you're missing Stage 2.
Yeah, Stage is the big one because then you at least get Blue-White Lotus Field. I think that's literally the only card missing from Blue-White Lotus Field right now.
Yeah, and unless you're running I don't think they are, but the Charms are missing too, which see play every once in a while.
Sure.
And dig through time.
Gotcha.
I thought it was mostly just the pour over pages.
We already have that.
Pour?
I thought
it was missed out of Shadows.
No, it wasn't. It's in. It's on Arena.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So, like, I did the count, as I said. We have enough slots for basically every major card that's missing. So, like, and I have a few of them on the list that's already live. So, Bring the Light is 1. Chain of the Rocks is number 2. Dig Through Time. JVP. Kytheon. Oath of Nissa. Reckless Bushwhacker. Sylvan Caryatid. Sylvan Scrying. Chain Veil. Treasure Cruise. Urgborg. And I have Stubborn Denial in here too, but that's like 17 cards. And you could add more. So like if you really want to add Lotus Field, you can fit just enough, but I don't think they're going to do that. So if I really do think that Lotus Field is going to be the last deck that's added. Because all the other decks are missing stuff. So like Rakdos Midrange is missing Dreadbore, although Dreadbore is not really played as much. It's not a 4 of anymore. It's barely a 2, sometimes mostly a 1, although Rakdos Midrange is the worst of the red-black decks at the moment. And I think Bushwhacker is the main draw of all these drops outside of Urgborg, because I really don't think they're going to put Treasure Cruise and Dig Through Time in the same drop. So you're probably only going to get 1. And I'm like, if they do give you 1, I am 95% sure they're not giving you Treasure Cruise. So, and I really hope that JVP is in this drop because I want to play with that in Historic so bad. Like, good Lord, is that card going to be nonsense in that format? But, yeah, I don't know what else you're going to put in here. Like,
Reckless Bushwhacker. Give me my Reckless Bushwhackers.
Do we have Jeskai Ascendancy?
Huh?
Do we have Jeskai Ascendancy?
Nope.
We do not. So that might be another card that they possibly add. And that's
just give me 8 whack. That's all I ask, Watsy. Just give me 8 whack.
Bushwhacker is it. Like if you put Bushwhacker in the format, you have Boros Convoke in, and you can still play the Atarka red aggro deck also. Another card that wasn't added on here, and I think it probably should be in, is Legion Loyalist for the Goblins.
Yes. Agreed.
The 1-drop. So like we're just shy of like adding 30 cards. So I don't think they're gonna add all of the staples. You're probably gonna get, so out of 25 cards, and they already spoiled 3, and 3 of them are not playable. You're probably gonna get 10 to 12 that are gonna be like, maybe 15. You're gonna get 15 cards that are part of the format, and I don't think it's gonna be Hidden Strings. You might get Thespian Sage, maybe. And you're going to get one of the blue cards. And when I say one of the blue cards, I really do think it's out of JVP, Treasure Cruise, and Dig Through Time. You're not going to get 2 of them. You're going to get 1. And I have Stubborn and Island here because I want it for Historic. But we can play some green-white Value Town with some Elvish Reclaimers. give some life to anything other than red black. I swear on all that is holy, if Historic Anthologies 7 has anything for red black, I'm gonna write a hate mail. I swear. No, red black does
Write your
not need any
congressman.
more cards. I'm gonna listen. I'll use my one time for my one like from a certain WotC individual that liked one of my tweets. I swear I will tag everybody in it. Do not put any more red black stuff in this story.
Urborg.
Oh yeah.
Urborg's fine because it's supposed to be. It's like there are cards that are going to be like that's going to come eventually anyway because it's part of Pioneer. Like we're going to get it anyway. Like I can't stop that. But like, don't be putting stuff like, oh, by the way, we're getting. Oh, by the way, that was another thing too. Is I think we're getting a cycle. Is the reason why we're getting 25 cards instead of 20. I really think we're getting a cycle of something for Historic. I don't know what it is, but I hope it's not the stupid pitch elementals.
Oh god.
I hope it's like the Titans. I hope it's the Titans or like some rare cycle that we don't have on us in that's like a nostalgia thing. And I really think the Titans are fine because there's no busted things to do with Primeval Titan, and all the Titans are just naturally good. And they all see play because you can play Crucius with them. So I'm like really like I'm not saying that's gonna happen. I'm just like really hoping that if we get a cycle, it's something like that where they're not all busted and they're playable and everything.
That makes sense.
Stuff like that.
Well, we're out of time. Thank you so much because you really brought some things to the front of the discussion that I think really needed to be brought out, and I wasn't going to say them. But thank you for giving us your wish. I pulled a wish list out of you too. I managed to do that, so that was an accomplishment. Optimal MTG, first timer to the podcast. Thank you for coming by and also bringing up some portions of the discussion that I also probably wasn't ever going to think of or bring up, which is kind of an outsider to us arena heads who spend way too much time and money on arena dark stream. But anyway,
What?
Leave me alone. Why don't you tag me next time when you say it?
But anyways,
Put an address on it.
hell yeah. Let's you guys have everybody but John Ramos. You guys have some final thoughts on this. Let's wrap this up on Anthologies. Paradabo.
Pretty much give me more black and red cards just to upset John Ramos.
This motherfucker, bro.
Optimal MTG. Anything else you are looking forward to from these anthologies?
I mean, to me, I'm fine with it being a slow process of bringing cards to Arena for Explorer. I don't really have anything in mind in demand at the moment. Maybe, because like, I don't know. I don't want too many decks to be just like complete full powered, right? Like we got Mono Green missing both of Vanessa. That's another one. So I mean, just kind of take it as it goes. As long as I guess they kind of level up the format one archetype at a time, then that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that also explains why they're not doing it all at once, because that would be they might do it in such a way that they leave a couple of things out that makes it just like way too much parody.
Yeah, hence the name Explorer. they want more exploring as opposed to
I suppose.
metagame.
Darth Rictus of the Dark Stream. Give us your final thoughts on Explorer versus Pioneer, Historic versus Modern, and the anthologies and all that.
I mean, honestly, what I would love to see is for them to port, 20 to 30 cards that are highly relevant to Explorer that don't necessarily matter in any other context because it is an Explorer anthology. And as long as they continue to deliver cards that matter to archetypes until we get to a place where we can test Pioneer digitally without having to get onto that abomination known as Magic Online digital objects.
Boo.
Yeah, it's the thing though. Everybody has to do that right now to test for RCQs. I have 8 friends that are testing hardcore for RCQs, and they have to use Moto, and they all hate it. So
I love Moto. I love Magic Online.
Oh man,
there's always one, bro. There's always one.
There's always one. But I would like to see all of Pioneer here, so we can test in depth for these paper events, and we can finally get to the place where we're testing for Pro Tours correctly instead of kind of hoping that it translates, which is where a lot of people are right now.
Well, it's
Yeah.
Modern RCQ season in September, so
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But Pioneer's coming back eventually too, you know?
Yeah.
I was gonna say real quick. I know it wasn't, but
No, go ahead.
Explorer and Historic metagame challenges after the drops, and August qualifier is Explorer, so
It
that's
is.
why it's a big deal.
Yeah, it
And
is for
Standard comes
Arena.
back for and Standard comes back as the RCQ season at the start of the new year. So
Yep. So look forward to content from the Rebellion focused towards Explorer, because that is definitely coming up. Thank you for bringing that up, John Ramos. All right. Well, Darkstream, do you have anything else you wanted to say on that?
Nah, sorry for being late, guys. Love y'all.
Thanks for coming by anyway. We love having you here. And all right, that's it from everybody here at the MTG Rebellion. Check out our State of the Meta series. We've been doing a bunch of them on Standard. I think we're getting ready to expand out to Explorer. So look for that on the horizon, and more sideboard guides. So go check out the YouTube channel. This podcast is available both on YouTube and Spotify. If you just want to listen to it on the go check it out there. And if you're listening on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe, and definitely leave a comment down there what you think of any of our opinions. If you agree, disagree, if you want us to talk about things more in depth than this or other topics, let us know. Give your suggestions in the comments below. All right, guys, from everybody at the MTG Rebellion, don't forget to untap, upkeep, resist.
resist.
All right, good night, everybody.
Night.
good night.